Welcome, everyone, to the Brand Fortress HQ podcast. I'm your host, John Stojan. Today, I'm thrilled to have Yoni Mazor, the co-founder and chief growth officer at Getita, with us. Yoni's been developing Getita after successfully operating a $20 million a year brand on Amazon, selling in the fashion brands selling fashion brands internationally. Getita specializes in Amazon discrepancy analysis and consulting by utilizing data visualization technology. Getita focuses on discovering and managing financial and inventory-related discrepancies with billions of dollars of transactions managed daily. Yoni, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
My
For
pleasure.
folks, for folks that aren't familiar with you, can you tell me a little bit about your background?
Yeah, so background in the industry or background in life? Which kind of background do you want?
I always like to start with background in life because I think that kind of informs the unique perspective that people bring to e-commerce and Amazon.
Got it. Yeah, so background in life is I was born and raised in Israel, actually, small town north of Tel Aviv, so kind of the shore area. And then when I was 22, I moved to the United States. After I finished my military service, I was actually in the Israeli Navy Intelligence and the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, for about 3 years. Nothing special. Everybody goes. So that's kind of the way the country goes.
Well, although
Um,
I did see in my notes that it says that you speak five languages.
that's correct. Yeah, Hebrew from native language. In the army, I did intelligence, so that I had to kind of pick up on Arabic. English, obviously. I live in the United States now. After the army, actually, I did go travel South America for 6 months, and I picked up Spanish, at least the fundamentals. And then when I moved to the United States, there's a lot of pretty large Hispanic, in Spanish community speaking, people here. So I picked it up more and more. So Spanish is pretty stable. Um, I love that language, by the way. And then that's the fourth. And then the fifth is Russian. Actually, my wife is originally from Russia, from Moscow. So I speak like a 2-year-old, because she talks to all my children, our kids when they're born. She talks to them in Russian. So I absorb all those. Take a shower, go clean up, eat something, stuff like that. So I can speak like a 2-year-old. So all in, it's like five. The past few years, somebody told me that not just me, everybody speaks another language, whether they like it or not. They can talk more languages, and the six languages I can talk bullshit. I don't know if it's a R-rated or X-rated or G-rated show, but
I think you're perfectly fine with that. Yeah, I think, yeah, and I can see how that could, so uh, that can come in handy as well. So
there you go.
six different languages. We'll have to make sure that gets updated. So
I just got upgraded officially. Yeah, thank you.
yeah, very nice, very nice. So, starting out with intelligence in the Israeli Defense Forces, how do you go from that to growing a $20 million business on Amazon, and then into what you do today with Getita?
Yeah, so let's fast forward a few things. So yeah, I got to the States. I went to school. Met a girl. I got fell in love and got married and basically what happened was I was working for a sales and distribution company in the New York tri-state area. Tri-state is typically New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. Um, we're selling supplements and brick and mortar, but we're also selling supplements on our own website, and then we're selling to Amazon, right, Vendor Central, and then also on eBay and other these marketplaces. And that was my early dabbling into e-commerce because of the company that I worked for. And then on the side, what happened was I met a guy that I was doing the sales and distribution for the supplements company. He was actually doing accounting for a furniture company, and we're both kind of young, passionate, newly married, and we kind of felt like there's a lot of more in e-commerce. So we started kind of selling stuff online. Even though, so we both had a little bit of experience selling stuff online, but we started kind of selling stuff together, whatever we could get our hands on. We first started on eBay, and then 2013 we started selling on Amazon, and then that was like a boom effect. Very quickly the business grew from 0 to 20 million in annual sales, and then we became a part of a larger group that together as a group we're selling about $100 million in FBA revenue. We always kind of kept selling on other marketplaces like eBay, Walmart, and our website. That was always kind of the case on the e-commerce level, but Amazon really ballooned, mushroomed, exploded. It was just, it's like a big beast that doesn't matter how much you feed it, it keeps telling you, I want more.
So just a quick
Getty.
question,
Mhm.
just to maybe take this down a little bit of a side road that I'm curious about is talking about being that beginning experience in like vitamin and supplements, like that is a very competitive area even before the days of Amazon. Do you feel like that gave you kind of a little bit more of an advantage in the sense of like you pretty much have to have sharp elbows to be successful in that particular niche? And so,
So it's funny because I started, my early dabbling was, supplements, but this is before the supplements era of today, which is so hardcore, so it's hyper
okay.
competitive. That's one thing, but that was when I was working for the company or working for the man, call it. But when I stopped working for the man, I started working for myself. We didn't really touch the supplements, I'll be honest. So when we started actually in watches, then jewelry, then sunglasses, then travel, and then apparel, then toys, then everything. It's when we peaked, we were pretty much kind of like a little mini department store.
Mm,
We had four of our own brands. Our brands were mainly in travel, baby, and fashion jewelry. And also we did reselling. We also did reselling of other brands. So we're like kind of like a Macy's, a Macy's department store. You have a multi-category.
yeah.
They're reselling brands, but they also have their own brands that they make. So we're kind of like that on the digital front. And Gatita was born from those challenges. Basically, what happened was, um, we created the solution for ourselves. We discovered that on an annual basis, the discrepancy rate ranges between 1 to 3% from revenue, right? So when we're doing like $1 million a year on Amazon, we had 10 to 30,000 a year that we needed to kind of recover, right, in discrepancies
Hmm.
and reimbursements. But when we're kind of part of a larger group, 1 to 3% is 1 to 3 million a year that we need to kind of recover. And the problem was that we were not able to use spreadsheets anymore to reconcile all the transactions because too much data. There was too much data, so the spreadsheets were just breaking down. So that kind of pushed us to do two things. The first thing was to set up a software technology to audit all the transaction on a commercial scale, let's call it,
Hmm.
or massive scale. That was the first element. The second element was to create a dedicated team to constantly, address those discrepancies with Amazon and do all the back and forth until everything's resolved. Because once again, on an annual basis, when we're doing 100 million, that's 1 to 3 million a year that we need to recover, and that is material enough for us to apply resources such as software and development of software and a dedicated team to have an airtight solution for us to solve this issue because it's material, right?
Yeah, yeah, that makes
So
a lot of sense.
yeah, so we just, we had our needs, we created the solution, and that was fine. But what happened was over time, we kind of told our friends from the industry that we have these capabilities. So they told us, help us, we'll pay you.
Hmm.
And that was the early genesis of Gatita back in 2015. And then for like 3, 4 years, it was just kind of growing organically because the value proposition is very simple and straightforward. It's very comfortable. It's a performance based solution. So we only charge a fee based on recovery. So just like that, it's free to join Gatita. It's free to stay with Gatita. There's no subscription. You can cancel at any time. We only charge a fee if we're able to successfully recover anything. So 3, 4 years was just growing organically, and we had kind of two businesses. We had the retail, and then we had the solution with Gatira, and then in 2019 we kind of made a strategic decision to cash out of retail and take all the profits that we made and just kind of invest into Gatira and put all of our attention, motivation, creativity, focus in one place, which was Gatira and helping sellers worldwide. And really, once we pivoted, that we made that strategic decision. From that point, really kind of I would say we kind of maybe took leadership on this niche, and today we're the largest organization in the world, exclusively focused and dedicated to one thing, which is Amazon FBA auditing and reimbursements. We have a team of about 240 team members in 12 countries. We're also backed up by private equity, and that's kind of the I guess high level from all the way small town in Israel. Fast forward to I guess e-commerce selling on Amazon, being challenged on Amazon, solving the challenge, and then kind of helping sellers worldwide also solve the similar challenge.
Yeah, and that's I can see definitely some leaps there. So let me, for folks that are listening, they probably they're selling on Amazon, have some traction. They're probably at least a little bit familiar with this process of reimbursements from Amazon. Walk me through maybe some of the things that aren't so obvious in that process where they go, well, I could just open a case myself. What?
Yeah, so yeah, let's just dive into this. So happy to
Yeah.
share some context about the whole opportunity, call it. but also maybe give some advice here so you can take your own action. And by all means, get money yourself. We highly support that. Let's step back a little bit. So it all really starts from this first shipment. When you ship products to Amazon, that's when the whole chain of events start to happen. So, John, you yourself, you want to ship to Amazon 1,000 units, 1,000 units, and you ship it to their fulfillment centers. And Amazon, instead of receiving 1,000 units, they only receive, let's say, 990 units. 10 units are missing.
Mm-hmm.
So if you never heard of this situation or never thought about this is all new to you. Listen carefully, because it means that you're going to have more money in your pocket at the end of it. And if you already heard about it and you kind of know, hopefully this will sharpen you up. So those missing 10 units, Amazon not just going to give you a refund or reimbursement right away. It's up to you. The onus is on you, or responsibility is on you, the seller, to log into Seller Central. And I'll tell you how to get there. You go to Seller Central, inventory, manage FBA shipments. You click it, and you're going to see the shipments log. So you see, I shipped this, FBA shipment. I see 1,000 units. They only received 990. You log into the shipment. Inside the shipment, you're going to have a drop-down menu. Because they're going to show you minus 10 units. That drop-down menu, you're going to click on, missing units, please research. Okay, It's up to the seller to do this so they can start the research. Now, when they start the research, it's not that simple. It used to be that you have the button and they can start the research. Today, it's not so simple. You need paperwork. Okay, they're either going to ask you for a proof of ownership or proof of purchase. In that case, it could be an invoice, or if you have your own brand and you have brand registry, instead of an invoice, you can give them a package slip. So you're gonna have to upload that document. And if you shipped it outside of Amazon, in other words, you didn't use Amazon's platform to buy the shipping to ship it to Amazon, you use it from an outside provider, you're gonna have to give them a proof of delivery document. Okay, but if you buy the shipping from Amazon, you won't have to give them anything. You're just gonna have to give them a proof of purchase. Anyways, you provide all these documentation, and they open the case. They start investigating. If Amazon found the 10 missing units, now you can sell it, make money, no harm done. It's all good to go. If they didn't find it and it's eligible for reimbursement, they're gonna pay you a reimbursement for that financial loss, right? Because you shipped 1,000 and they got 990, 10 units are missing. They're gonna they're gonna compensate you for that. What's interesting is,
sorry, just to interrupt real quick. Now, is that reimbursement still the retail rate of that product?
Exactly what I was about to say. Yeah.
Okay.
Same wavelength. So what's, I guess, interesting or very, very nice about it, what Amazon is doing is that they're not paying you the cost of the product. They're paying you the retail value as if you sold it on Amazon. And what's nice about it is that if you sold on Amazon, no PPC cost, no advertising cost. So if you bought the product for $2 and you expect to sell on Amazon for $20, you're going to get that $20 back. Right, so you're able to recover your cost of goods, which is $2, and then the markup of $18, minus Amazon selling fees and the fulfillment fees. So if you sell on Amazon after fees, you keep $13. You're gonna get $13, which covers that $2 of cost, and the rest is profit. Let's say, and no PPC in between costs or advertising costs in between. That's why That's why our mission is to help sellers get the maximum reimbursement. Because if you don't maximize all the reimbursements that you're eligible to receive, you're losing two things. The first thing you lose is your cost of goods. And the second thing is your profit, because exactly like I mentioned, we're shifting a double negative to a double positive, where instead of missing your cost of goods and the profit, you're actually getting it all back. You're getting your cost of goods, and you turn up a nice profit margin markup for that. So in our whole holistic approach and focus, that you get the maximum, because if you do, instead of a double loss, you get a double win. It's kind of a nice pendulum that we're swinging.
Yeah.
And that's just the first entry level type of discrepancy that most sellers can relate to, because it's very intuitive. I ship something to you, I want to make sure you got everything, right?
Yeah. And so for brands out there that maybe are, shipping in a pallet a week or a pallet a month, like that process, can, they're probably like, well, I could do this myself. And there's a certain amount of that you probably can, but you get to a certain point where, you're just not going to stay on top of it. That's just the reality. Like
it becomes item number 50 plus on the list to do.
Exactly.
Because the sellers typically, they don't want to look back. They want to constantly look forward. You're sourcing, you're launching, you're advertising, you're marketing it. So you got to stop the whole train, and then let's look at the past. Let's see what happened for this, and also other issues that happened with FBA in the past 18 months. So the shipment is the entry level issue, and then keep in mind that once the units, the inventory is inside Amazon's fulfillment centers, all of a sudden inside the centers, inventory all of a sudden might get lost, damaged, destroyed, or disappeared or disposed. And you, the seller, constantly have to audit for those issues. okay, inside the warehouse, but also between the warehouse, because Amazon might ship your products from Kentucky to California to Nevada to have a spread, prime shipping
Mm-hmm.
spread for a day or two. They might do that. Same thing, same types of issues happen there. Also, from the fulfillment centers to the consumers, once the orders come in from the marketplace and Amazon fulfills them, you got to look into the discrepancies over there. Not all orders come in perfectly to the consumers. Also, from the consumers back to Amazon, with all the beloved refunds and returns, customer refund returns, there can be discrepancies there. And also from the fulfillment centers back to you, the seller, if you do a removal order. So all these logistics friction points, that's where we live in. And our technology is built like a bodyguard that constantly tracks every single unit that goes into the fulfillment center. It tracks the life cycle of what's going on. So within the life cycle, all these variations of issues that can happen all over the place, can equate to between 1 to 3% from your Amazon revenue, FBA revenue.
Mm-hmm.
Or in other words, for every 100 units shipped to Amazon, between 1 to 3 units is going to get affected with an issue with the discrepancy through its life cycle with Amazon's fulfillment centers. So our mission is to be in that world, in that moment, to make sure that there's full recovery when there's an eligibility for a recovery. And by doing that, shifting double negatives into double positive is really going back 18 months and flushing the sellers with cash that they never imagined that's even available. And hopefully, if the sellers are able to take this cash, but once again has built-in profit for you, you reinvest it into the business. Now you have more money to spend on advertising. Now you have more money in cash flow to source and launch another product and keep reinvesting it. So the sellers who are the most optimized and the most sophisticated that maximize on this recovery opportunity and reinvest it to the business, they're the ones who are propelling up. They're on the flywheel.
Mm-hmm.
And the ones that lag or they don't even know about it, they just, they're not fully optimized and they can get outperformed over time. Keep that in mind. So,
I want to double click on something you said there because I think it's so powerful, and I think it's, for people that are listening, I think some of them probably picked it up, but I just want to make sure that everybody gets it, which is, like you said, say that you're doing $1 million in sales, and the average, your recovery is, between $10,000 to $30,000. That's kind of, just kind of ballpark numbers. So we're talking about, and I think it's just important for folks to realize that we're not talking about $10,000 to $30,000 in revenue that, got to go through the COGS and that type of stuff. This is essentially like adding, $10,000 to $30,000 in profit to your bottom line, because those everything is already spent. So, that could be a huge difference when you look at your net profit at the end of the day of if you added, $30,000 to your net profit on $1 million in sales. So I think, I just want everybody to realize that's listening to this is, to understand that is going to, not just revenue, but your actual bottom line of that additional $10,000 to $30,000.
All goes to profit. The beautiful thing about it, go back 18 months, you recover $10,000 to $20,000 to $30,000 if you're doing $1 million a year, for example, and all trickles to their bottom line. It's all juice at that point because everything else is kind of paid for, and you're absolutely right. And then, during the exit boom of all the aggregators coming in and buying all these businesses, it was amazing to see how with one decision, they're able to increase their EBITDA, their bottom line profit, and then get a multiple on that. Because when you sell your Amazon business, they're buying your profit and they're paying a multiple for that profit. So let's say your multiple is 3x, right? So your profit is 100,000. Whoever's buying it, they're willing to buy it for 300,000. But all of a sudden, you're able to add, let's say, 10%. So, $10,000 from reimbursement, and that goes straight into your bottom line. All of a sudden, you're getting $30,000, a 30% bump. A 10% bump because you're paying you $300,000 to cash you out. They're going to pay you $330,000 because you decided to use Getira. We go back 18 months, flush you with another $10,000 extra to your profit, bottom line, and boom, you have a nice multiple on it. So it's a nice multiplier effect. That's if you get a 3x multiple. What if you negotiate a 4 or 5x and your profit is not and your revenue, we're able to recover, you're not doing $1 million. Let's say you're doing 10 million a year and we recover 100 grand and your multiple is 5x. From one decision, you're able to add $500,000 to your exit because you decided one thing. I'm going to use a solution to maximize on my reimbursements and maximize on my earnings and my profits. And then somebody will pay me a multiple on that. That was very strong days for us. It still is, but especially in that boom where there's a whole frenzy and the multiples were going up and up. We saw the multiples kind of from 2019 early days, they were like 2x, 2.5x, all the way to 7, 8x because they're all competing with each other. Now they're kind of balancing in 3, 4x, kind of relaxing. Still better than the beginning, but that was an amazing thing to see how we affected the lives of those sellers and the brands of mid and exit by making one decision. But it just kind of emphasizes and highlights where once again you can become a healthy long-term business if you optimize not just on, because most of the sellers want to optimize on sourcing, launching, advertising, ACOS. Great, that's good. there's another universe where you can optimize and then really make incredible results, not just to the top line, which you want to sell more, right? But how it translates to the bottom line, it gets very fuzzy because there's so many things in between. When it comes to reimbursements, not too many things in between, and it trickles down, down to the bottom line, especially when you don't expect it, right? You go back 18 months, you never even expect it to return it. All of a sudden, you're getting all these tens of thousands of dollars back. That's usually such a sweet moment for a lot of the sellers. And then when they start reinvesting it, that's when they really go nicely on the flywheel. And that's kind of the purpose, goal, mission that we live within every day. Since 2015, we take a lot of pride into it. And even our slogan today is, our slogan is more than money back. It's a way forward.
Yeah.
Because we effectively get your money back, but if you really reinvest into the business, that will propel you forward. So it's a lot of that's what we've seen the sellers do smartly over the years and have long-term success. And if you have a long-term success, by the way, with your business, that's where anybody would want to buy this business. So you don't have to kind of start a business just to think about selling it. You want to start a business so you have a good income and a good profit-making machine for yourself. And if you have that, by the way, anybody else would want to have that, and they'll pay you handsomely for it. So you have something that is, it's a real asset. Keep that in mind, whoever's out there selling. Now, I do want to add a few more things. It's free to join Getida. It's free to stay with Getida. We only charge a fee based on recovery. And, our mission is to help the sellers maximize on all the reimbursements that they're eligible to receive. But at high level, it's very important for me that the sellers understand that we kind of fulfill our mission in 3 ways. One way, it's through education, meaning we over the years, we probably educated tens of thousands of sellers how to do it themselves. Mm-hmm. We never see a penny out of that. They go, they take action, they do it, it's all good. Right? But this way, we're helping them get to the maximum levels because we hold this banner saying FB auditing is important to your business. It can really impact your business and the bottom line. Do it. And we go out and masterminds, conferences, webinars. It's all, you'll probably find our content all over, and we kind of teach you do yourself. We encourage sellers to do the maximum they can do on their own. All good. The second, there's 3 ways we do, right? The first one, like I said, education. Second way is that, of course, anybody wants us, we can do everything for them. They can sign up to Getida. We do all the work for them. We do the maximum recovery for them, and we're good to go. The third option is in between, meaning the seller, we're very customizable. So we do encourage the sellers to do the maximum they can do on their own to get all the reimbursements that they can. And then they can plug in Getida, so we can come in as a backup. Right? So any issues you missed out on for whatever reason, we can come in, grab that for you, bring it back to your pocket, and only if we're successful, only then we get rewarded. So it doesn't have to be us or you, it's together. We have a holistic approach. We're together, partner. We can once again help you get to the maximum level. So so that's high level, very important for the sales to understand. That doesn't have to be us or you. It can definitely also be together if needed. Not a problem.
Yeah, and I think that's an important piece. And let me ask you this question, because I know that there's other tools out there. Like Helium 10 does a lot of different things, and that happens. They do have a tool that does that, and so if I'm hearing you correctly, is that someone could use, for example, that tool out of Helium 10 to probably get
it's called Refund Genie. It's a really good tool, and we're partnered with Helium 10. I give this analogy. That's a good tool. It covers kind of 2 or 3 issues out of 30. It's a good thing. It's like a toothbrush. You use a toothbrush, you clean your teeth, but we're like a dentist. The dentist highly recommends that you use a toothbrush, but the dentist, you come in, I can do tooth extraction, I can do bracelets, I can do, I can implants, we can do cleaning, deep cleaning. So that's kind of the analogy between tools and a specialist, or like a dentist, if you like, that kind of does the full impact.
Yeah, and I think that's just important for people to hear that are listening is that it's not, I have to use Getida, or, they have to do it all for me, or, or something else. Like you said, usually it can very much be a combination of those things where, letting you guys handle kind of those cases that are more complex, that quite frankly, as a seller, your time is better spent doing other things. And like you said, pushing that, your brand forward, growing your business, doing all those types of things. And, getting kind of the easy, if you will, kind of the basic reimbursements done.
Yeah, any low-hanging fruit, we highly encourage the sellers to go for it. Whatever's complex, hard, treacherous, we can come in and be that agent that, grabs up for the sellers. And once again, only if we're successful, we get rewarded. So I would say it's pretty much almost, brainless. It's just it's kind of a win-win proposition where it's really zero risk for the sellers. Once again, they do everything. You do above and beyond. Get everything that you can. We come in, get you another 5,000, 10,000, 15,000. Only if we're successful with you, we get rewarded. If we do all this work and it got you nothing, you pay nothing. So really, kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah. Can you give me an example, maybe, just so that way, people that are listening can get a better idea of like what maybe those more complex cases can be that you guys do kind of specialize in tackling for sellers?
Yeah. So the data, first of all, if anybody ever tried it, it can get very convoluted very, very easily. But I'll hit this one. There's just one example. There's many others, but okay. Let's start with the fulfillment fees. You sell on Amazon. You send your products to FBA, and Amazon will store your units on FBA. And then once the order comes in from the marketplace, they're gonna pick the unit from the bin. They're gonna package it in a box, and they're gonna ship it out. And they're gonna charge you a fee for that fulfillment, or call it fulfillment fee. The fee is based on the weight and dimension of the product that you have. So for whatever reason, they have wrong data about your ASIN and they think the product is larger and heavier than it actually is. They're going to charge you mistakenly more fees or fulfillment fees. So let's say your product is only, it's a phone cover. It's only 6 inches and 6 ounces, in weight. They're supposed to charge you only $4 per unit. But for whatever reason, they have the data that makes it look like it's the size of a football. So instead of charging you $4 per unit, they're charging you $10 per unit. So they're financially overcharging you $6 every time you sold a unit. Let's say you sold 1,000 units, they overcharge you $6,000. Once again, if you never heard about this, what did it just say? It sounds like a foreign language to you. Don't worry, there's solutions out there that help with this. We happen to be one of them, and we do all the calculations. See, if there is a discrepancy, weight and dimension, or fulfillment fee or pick and pack fee discrepancy. And if we do find that discrepancy, we kind of do two things, or the seller actually needs to do two things, which we can do as well. Open a case and then fix it. So going forward, they stop overcharging. So you stop the bleeding. And then, of course, get the reimbursements, the recovery for the past 90 days. Unfortunately, this discrepancy type is limited to 90 days or 3 months to recover the overcharges. It used to be that it was open for 18 months. But in 2019, Amazon narrowed down from 18 months to 3 months. And the logic and reasoning was because from time to time, from season to season, packaging of products might change. It could be that you have one kind of packaging for the year, but then for Christmas or Valentine's Day or for the summer or whatever season you're in, you might have a different kind of packaging. So they don't want to kind of pay you for 18 months. They kind of narrow down the opportunity to reconcile this for 90 days. So in other words, what I'm saying is that over the years, we see how Amazon is making things more narrow and more challenging for the sellers to handle this in a timely fashion. And it becomes very taxing for the sellers to be able to constantly focus on all the changing regulations, all these types of variation of claims. Another example is the inbound shipments, by the way. When you ship to Amazon, it used to be 18 months. Now it's only 9 months in the United States. But in Europe, if you're selling in Europe, it's only 6 months. So for whatever, different regions, different time frames for the same issue, it just, you have to kind of go into all the ins and outs of it. Sometimes I compare our world to the advertising or PPC world. Amazon constantly changes everything. Whatever PPC is now, it's not what it was a year or 2 or 3 or 5 ago. It constantly advances, it changes, there's all these nuances. And the sellers don't have enough resources or time in the day to constantly keep up to all the changes. But we do, because it's the only thing we have to do. So
Yeah,
we're partnering with us. You're constantly ahead of the curve because that's our only focus and mission.
yeah. So, and I want to come back a little bit to talking about those measurements because I think that's something that a lot of sellers probably aren't aware of. So I've noticed it, with clients that I've worked with where I don't know if sellers are aware of this, but I mean, Amazon does, and I'm using audit in air quotes because this is what I've seen is they do an audit and they'll change your dimensions on your product. And without getting into all the technical of it, essentially what it boils down to, it's not necessarily how much your product weighs, it's based on a dimensional weight that Amazon uses. So even if they show, the same weight, by changing those dimensions, and sometimes it's only a quarter of an inch, it bumps you from,
A different
one
tier.
exactly from one tier to another. And the difference there might be an extra dollar, $2 or $3 in order to ship your product. And they make that, when they do, again, audit in air quotes, they make that change. You generally don't get a notification.
No.
And I've seen these, errors on a fairly regular basis where,
Yeah,
they'll
these are
make that
silent
change.
margin killers that sellers, once again, when you look into the world of selling on Amazon, it's super down in the curriculum, call it, of selling on
Mm-hmm.
Amazon, if at all. Most of them don't. That's what we hold a big banner educating and educating, so sellers get down to those resolutions and have at least the opportunity to do something about it if they can. If not, we're happy to do it for them. And yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. Well, and I think the other, and I didn't realize that it was only 90 days. So if you've had something like that and you don't catch it and it goes on for, a year, I mean,
It kills you. It immerses you.
yeah.
I'll tell you. Let me tell you two for this specific type of discrepancy. I'll tell you two examples that we found over there. There's many others, but that why this might happen. So one example is that it could be an honest mistake where, let's say, you're selling a handbag. That's your product, and then you sold it, and then somebody returned the handbag, and the customer that returned the handbag, they added the strap. Right now, sometimes the
Hmm.
handbags they have straps, so that strap can add 30, 40, 50 inches to your product. And what's going to happen is when it comes back, Amazon will scan it through a big machine called cubic scan machine, and all of a sudden this strap that was added by the customer gets rescanned and back into your inventory, adds 30, 40, 50 inches, whatever, and then Amazon remeasures and recalculates the weight and dimensions of the product, and boom, it throws you to another tier. And from that point on, they start overcharging you. So we shipped it out to Amazon. It was all packaged, all good. It was exactly the weight and dimensions. But along the way, when it got returned by a customer, something happened, and by Amazon's machine recalculated, and boom, all of a sudden you're struck with all these fees, and it's killing your margin. That's one type of error, that it's an honest mistake. Another type that we actually seen over the years is that maybe you're being attacked by another competitor. So Yoni, myself, I'm competing with you, John. We both sell the same exact product, but we're two different brands. I want to attack you. So what do? I go to my Sell Essential. I take your ASIN, I add it to my Sell Essential. I
Hmm.
never actually offer it. I never actually sell it. Only thing that I do is I change manually the weight and dimensions and report it to Amazon incorrectly. I say, hey, your product is not 6 inches. I add a zero, 60 inches. And your product is not 6 ounces, it's 6 pounds. Once again, I never offered out, but the data got updated, recalculated. I'm selling the same thing as you, or it might be even selling the same price head to head and finding on the keywords. I'm selling making margin. You're selling, you actually either making less margin or even worse, might be even losing money. And you don't even know it, right? And then it happened for 6, 7, or 9 months, and Amazon maybe overcharge you for that specific case in $100,000 in the past, let's say, 9 months. So in the past 90 days, only charge you $30,000. You're gonna get that $30,000. By the $60,000, you're never gonna get it back because you didn't do it on time. So you lost $60,000 in margin while your competitor didn't, and they're the ones that created this problem to begin with. But of course, if you never check on it, it might be that over time you say, hey, this is not a good profitable ASIN for me. You get out of the game,
Hmm.
not even knowing there could have been much more because you could have optimized your FBA discrepancies in auditing and fix it, and actually realize that this ASIN actually has a long term potential to make good margins, but it didn't because there was a change or somebody attacked you, and we're not professional enough to understand the numbers properly. So you got out of the category, out of that ASIN, or you still want to stay in it, but you lost so much money for so long, it didn't recover your funds on time. You're in a hole where your competitor is killing it, for example.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, uh, yeah, without even going into the black hat stuff, I mean, that's just one example. Um, is there maybe another? So I think that's a great example. And for folks out there, if you haven't checked your what you're paying in FBA fees, and again, this can be really hard if you've got 100 SKUs, 1,000 SKUs, it can be very difficult. But if you haven't checked those, in the last 6 months, and you don't have something monitoring those, that definitely
You're
needs.
you're a sitting duck. Yeah, you can might
Yeah.
be. If you have lots of ASINs, it's hard for you to control these ASINs, and somebody else's that they're competing with you, and for them, it's one of the only few ASINs they do have, and they're going to do every single element to optimize it and murder you along the way. They'll do it. Have
Yeah.
no have no doubt that they will, because they're dependent on it. So it's as we all know, it's a very the terrain of selling on Amazon is hyper competitive. It's just going to get more competitive over the years. Of course, we have the Chinese based sellers who are hyper competitive, very disciplined, very into the mathematics, very into the margins. I mean, one thing's for sure, things are just going to get more complex, more professional, and this, many times I'm asked, "Oh, what's the best tip, advice, or best hack I can offer the Amazon sellers?" But it's never one thing that I can tell you that can all of a sudden, make a business last for the next few years with
Yeah.
the best margins. It's more like understanding that you are a professional. That's the best tip. So that means that if you go to medical school, right? And you finish that's your profession. You're a doctor now, because a lot of the sellers, they kind of started, or some of the sellers, or
Mm.
many of the sellers, start on the side hustle. They're actually doctors or lawyers or whatever, and they're kind of on the side swinging it. They saw a course, they took a course, they saw a YouTube video, they started a brand, they have a passion about it, so they're semi pros or just amateurs. But then the business grows. All of a sudden, you find all this success, and it's hard for you to make that switch, saying, no, 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 I for the past few months or few years, I sold, I launched, I made some 6 figures, 7 figures, 8 figures, whatever it is, and I stopped doing my regular work. But now the onus is you to realize that you're a professional, and you're gonna have to do every little thing you can to be the best way you do it. Something like a doctor or lawyer, when they're in the profession, doctors, they constantly learn and adapt to new realities. Science keeps them moving and progressing. If you're a heart surgeon, brain surgeon, you gotta constantly adopt the best tools, the best environments or setups that you can to offer the best care that you can as a professional. So the best advice is you're a professional. This is your profession. As a profession, you and your whole team have to become professionals and embrace and immerse yourself with all the shifting elements and whatever. Of course, you got to recognize your strength, your best strengths, and your core strengths as professionals. What you do really best that separates you from the competition, and your partnership alliance, call it. Who are you going to? Much like a hospital or clinic, no doctor can just come in and take care of every patient without the right tools or the right facility that he partners with. Because when even the tools that you use as doctors, you have to choose which brands or solution providers you're gonna use
Right.
to treat. So much like that profession, same thing as a seller, you can't sell without the right tools. You need market research tools, you need pricing tools, inventory management tools, advertising tools, or solutions. Right? Something for auditing. You got to audit, see what's going on the FBA side. So we're living that element of the FBA side, and we're an available partner if ever needed. But once again, through the whole ecosystem that you create, you have to think in those realms. I'm a professional. I'm going to create a professional team that will separate and be better than the competition. I'm going to choose best of breed agencies, solution providers that I can constantly learn. By the way, by having this content vehicle, John, that you're creating, which is a podcast, it's a platform for sales to learn, understand. And this is part of that commitment of, you're helping them become more professionals. Even for yourself, I'm sure when you started, you never dreamed maybe that you're going to have a podcast or not. But you realize how much the whole thing is a learning game. Not just for this industry, many other. Yeah.
In fact, this podcast is, and I'm glad you brought that up because it's such a good point. Is the genesis of this podcast is actually, me and 2 other gentlemen that have, own brands. We've helped other brands grow, and we've been meeting for over a year now, where we meet on a weekly basis and we say, hey, this is what's working well in our brand. Here's what we're interested in testing. Here's what we did, and it didn't work. And so kind of providing that knowledge, I think your, doctor analogy is so on point in the sense of, it's no different than if we were in the same kind of, medical field and we were, sharing something with colleagues to say, hey, I tried this, particular treatment and it didn't work for this patient, but it did work for that patient, or I tried this, I've yet to see this treatment work, or this treatment works, really, really bad, really, really good, especially compared to, this other, this best practice that we knew about before. Like, here's this new best practice. And to keep pushing that forward. And
every ASIN is a patient and needs treatment.
Yeah.
Think about that. And there's a whole science. Really, it's the analogy is striking, and it's vividness of helping the sellers understand how it all kind of works. In every ASIN, really, as a patient, it has all this care that it needs. It needs to be sourced. It needs the logistics to be moved around. It needs to be priced properly. So that's pricing or projections of inventory, how much inventory is going to need. And then when you sell it, all of a sudden you have all these fees. Right?
Yeah.
And within all these fees, there's also, you got to see there might be discrepancy in them. It could be the selling fee discrepancy. It could be a fulfillment fee discrepancy and all these things. So you got to audit. That's part of the auditing that we live in. Or all the ASINs that are shipped in, are they all okay? All the units, are they all okay? What happened the past 18 months? They all got sold correctly or transferred correct? All these things. So this is, once again, a treatment that they need to make sure that their health and the health of this ASIN is the best condition, so it has longevity. You want to have a longevity, and you want it to be fruitful as much as possible, this ASIN, because you want it to kind of produce, and we produce children as humans, but the ASIN needs to produce hopefully profits. I'm trying to be more creative with my I might start adapting this analogy of every ASIN is a patient, call it a human. It has its own life and cycles, and it needs all these treatments. And some of them, and as you treat, you give it all these treatments, and you see good results, you double down. You see the results are not good, you try others, and that's really the game. Honestly, this is kind of the game that the sellers and brands are in, and it just gets more advanced. Something like medicine, something like science, because we live on the digital end. It's all digital. And there's so much data. If you are very data driven, your chances of success and survival are much higher than the ones who just got instinct. I think it'll be good. No, hold on. You can A/B test. You can do all these things. Create a budget, try it out. If you get a result, double down. If not, pivot. So no, I'll just if you just say no, I think this will be the best campaign, the best keyword. Put all the budget there. That's an option for you, but not so well educated, not so data driven, and that can cost you greatly, and it just be a point of failure.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, getting more professional about that, and especially, I think we're seeing that transition, and I think a lot of people that are going to find success over the next couple of years. There's still a ton of opportunity on Amazon and beyond, but the people that are going to see that success are those that take that mentality that you're talking about of being, this is my profession, which means that I'm building this brand in order to be a true brand, as if it was on, as much as if it's on the shelf at my local store as it is on Amazon. And that brand is cohesive. It speaks to the target customer, and that you're continuing to evolve that brand. And for those people that are looking at, hey, I'm just going to put up a product and see what happens. I think, unfortunately, just the way of the world, most of those days are pretty much gone. That now,
but if they're not gone and you found success, and you don't understand exactly why, and then things start to change, that's where you're going to lose it. Sometimes people can throw the spaghetti and see what sticks, and sometimes it does. And they might work for a year, maybe two, but also there's a pivot of some kind. They get flushed away because they haven't made the switch. They're lucky, beginner's luck, call it, whatever you want.
Yeah.
Even the casino, you might put the first quarter in the machine, boom, you hit the jackpot. It could be that whatever product you launch had good demand, exactly the good timing, and you had the right keywords, and it's all good. But then market conditions change. It could be competition coming in and doing better than you, offering more value at less price, or bidding on other keywords that are picking up because the way that consumers are looking for it, understanding it, wanting it is changing. It's a constant changing environment. So those days I still see, I go out to a lot of conferences, events, masterminds, see the people like, by mistake, they found success on Amazon. There still are those days. But the ones that I mean, luckily for them, they're the ones that I understand, okay, now that it happened, I want to know why and get more of it. But the ones that are not, they get flushed away. So that will be a shame, because once again, there is a lot of potential, a lot of opportunity. And if I have to look at the macro environment of why this opportunity is still around, is because, let's talk about macro, right? 100% of United States economy, retail, consumption in the United States. About today, I would say it's probably 17% of it is in e-commerce. So 80+% of retail, United States retail, is still in brick and mortar. And I can probably bet, my arms and legs that, it's probably the 17% or 16% that we are right now in e-commerce is probably going to grow to 18%, 19%, 20% and beyond. And the reason is because the generation that's now, it's much more digital driven, right? And they're just much, just superior. Shopping online is superior. Even for me, I started, I was born in the 80s, grew up in the 90s. I still have the fond memories of going to the shopping mall and buying and stuff like that. But less and less, I found it to be an inferior way to shop, because, I want to buy a new wardrobe. I have to go take a vehicle, drive all the way to a mall, and then go to a store, try all these things on. If something fits, I like it, and it's a good price, or maybe it's not a good price, I go to the other brand or store that has a similar, and then maybe it's a better price. Then I'll buy it. Then I put it in my trunk in my car, because I want to keep going to the other store and get a shirt, and it just could take a whole day, right?
Right.
Maybe when you're a kid, it might be a little fun, but as you grow older, it's a privilege that really most of us don't, I believe, have. I at least don't have. Instead, I just go in today on Amazon. There's an Amazon wardrobe. I can just order the things that I think I like, and I order them a few sizes. I try everything out in the comfort of my own home. I have to take my car and park it or anything like that. Whatever I like, I keep. Whatever I don't, I send back, and I'm done.
Right.
Faster, superior. I see the best prices, the best looking things and much more selection that I can physically see in the shopping mall store. So it is in a superior value proposition for consumers. The younger generation, TikTok maybe buy it, all that stuff. So that impulse buy is digital driven. So the younger generation that today is in their teens, once they become the dominant buying force, they're just going to be more e-commerce driven. And that 17-18% total retail, we're just going to keep growing and growing. So all of us in e-commerce are in that environment. We're in that shifting, growing momentum. So that's why there's lots of opportunities there, and it just built in, and we just have to stay focused and steady on capitalizing on them.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, like you said, we're going to continue to see that growth, just because as people get more comfortable, and Amazon's done a fantastic job with this, where you can get a product. Most products now come in less than 2 days. Amazon's trying for 1 day, and I mean, I think that there's again a lot of great things about Amazon, but when we talk about e-commerce, you can even look beyond Amazon, and depending on what category you're in, there's probably still opportunities in other places. And in fact, those are growing. If you look at, Walmart, you talked about TikTok with
TikTok
their
shops,
market.
yep.
Yeah, I
Hmm.
mean, there's going to be more and more opportunity. Um, so I think probably, the biggest takeaway, if folks are listening to this and they're saying, okay, what is maybe one thing that they could do? I think I really want to come back to and just double click on what you said on thinking about how you can make your brand more professional, even if that's just 1%. Because I think especially as we think about competing with, brands from overseas and China and that type of stuff, is at the end of the day, you have to be able to speak to your customer better than they can from a brand
Hmm.
perspective. And, obviously you can't do everything all at once, but you can think about how to make your brand 1% more professional each and every day. And over time, again, it's not good. There's not gonna, I haven't found a golden BB in e-commerce or Amazon, and it sounds like you haven't found it either, or that, that
Hmm.
one solution. But if you start stacking all these things on top of each other, and that's the nice thing about Amazon as well, is that, normally we think about things being, 1 plus 1 equals 2, and then we add another one and that equals 3. Well, Amazon is actually more, exponential in the sense of, you start adding or start multiplying things, and it really, you get, kind of, it's not 3 plus 3 equals 6. It's like 3 times 3 equals 9, and then it kind of grows dramatically from there. If you look at the difference in sales between 10th position versus third position, it's not a slight increase; it's a dramatic increase. So yeah, I think that's a great takeaway for folks. For people that are selling on Amazon and they realize they're like, hey, I know I can't monitor all this type of stuff. Where can they learn, more about you and more about Gatita?
Got it. So, we're pretty. I'm pretty busy or active on social media. So you can always look for, on you can look for me on LinkedIn or Facebook. You kind of post about the whole, market and industry almost daily. So you just look for my name. It's Yoni Mazor. If you're listening to this in audio, it's YONI MAZOR. That's Yoni Mazor, my first and last name. If you want to learn more about Gatita, how we can help, just visit Gatita.com, which is GETIDA.com. We have a friendly team there. There's always a chat available. You can always, hit us up on the chat. There's a whole resources available on the website. We have our blogs. Every week we post at least 1 or 2 articles there to keep on educating the sellers about all the intricacies of the industry. Of course, we have our podcast. So check out John Stojan's episode on Prime Talk. We had him, on our show. It was a great experience to hear, to listen, and learn about his experience. From being a serviceman into e-commerce and helping other sellers. So yeah, that's in a nutshell how we make ourselves available out there.
All right. Fantastic. Well, Yanni, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
You got it. Thank you so much, everybody. Good luck.